For anyone who might be interested, I've been working with Stephen Hancock and Evan Royalty, the creators of the SCP films, to bring you a fan film based on the Stalker video game franchise. Before it releases on YouTube, we are doing a limited theater tour throughout August and the first week of September. We're going to be hitting Brooklyn, Tampa, LA, and Dallas in that order. So if you want to get in on the tour, show up, meet the cast and crew, watch the movie, and meet me, then you can do that at x1entertainment.com/stalker tour, which hopefully there will be a link for in the description somewhere. Thank you all so much for the support you've shown the film up until this point. Thank you all for being amazing enough to allow me to follow my silly little movie making dreams like this. And thank you so much to my friends for allowing me to invade the podcast for my ad spot. I appreciate it. But if you want to get in on that tour before it shows up on YouTube, check it out at the link in the description. Thank you so much for everything.
Otara Vimo Karaleth Folin Disrake Tobanath Stefran Dilarop Ementhus Rule of Two Volikin Ferothi Jeffrey Epstein, and this is the red thread, and that was 100% absolutely verbatim straight out of the Voynich Manuscript. It was straight out of there. Could you believe it? It's page 13, I believe. Start talking about Jeffrey Epstein, the Rule of Two, going
Rule
deep into
of
that
Two,
stuff.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, I knew this day would come, to be honest.
So that's probably there probably needs to be a bit of explanation behind that. That came out.
I think it was
way. You might be
self-explanatory.
confused. Oh, okay, never mind. No, so in this episode of Red Thread, hello, by the way, this is the Red Thread. That part of the intro was not a lie. I'm Jackson, joined by Isaiah and Charlie. This week we're talking about the Voynich, one of those two, manuscript, which is a book from the 1400s that is basically indecipherable. Like it's written in a strange foreign language that has not been deciphered by anyone since then. It's one of the biggest mysteries in literature. So
Wait. So I knew nothing about this. That sounds so underwhelming. I could write something that no one could decipher, but no one would want to. It'd just be gibberish.
Well, you couldn't write something from the 1400s. Maybe it'd be interesting in like 600 or 800 years to someone if you could.
Yeah,
do
they still had like plenty of insane people back then though that could just start like scribbling nonsense.
Well, hold on. What if your insanity has like a rhythm to it? You know, there's there's like, you know, patterns and hints and stuff like that. Like it's not just scribbling, right? I think from my limited knowledge about the manuscript.
I mean, no.
Yeah. Is it just nonsense? Because you could do that, like a child could do that.
Okay, well, first of all, we don't know because we can't. we don't know what the writing is, so it could be nonsense. We're not sure. So it is a book full of potential nonsense, with nonsensical drawings. There are nonsensical drawings, absolutely. It's filled.
That's
filled
all of my drawings. I can do that.
We are 2.5 minutes in. Charlie is swinging.
Yeah, wait a minute. I had no idea what this topic was. I thought this was going to be something crazy, like this could be like the Necronomicon, a book of spells and evil.
Hey,
or
it
something.
could be.
I was like, we can't look at it. It doesn't make no sense.
Well, no, we don't know specifically what it's about. Would you know what the Necronomicon is, though? If you read that, if it was in some strange language, you wouldn't know that.
I can probably tell by the pictures of like demons and stuff. This has like 5 naked ladies. Like that's it.
No, so there's plenty of pages in the Voynich manuscript filled to the brim with these strange drawings. So I definitely think we can kind of come to conclusions based on the drawings alone about what the book is or what it contains, what the point of the book was, given, you know, contextual things like the drawings, what time period it comes from. We know certain things like that to a certain degree of efficacy. We know. But it's the language itself, the writing in there, that is extremely. It's impossible to decipher because we've got no way of contextualizing the language itself. There are some, like, to me, it looks like a mix between like Latin and kind of like Middle Eastern languages, maybe, but that doesn't make sense for the time period either. So I don't know what kind of language it is. So yeah, we don't know the specifics of what was actually written in the book. It could be a Necronomicon, but based on the pictures and stuff, I don't think that's likely. But there is definitely a likely outcome that we can talk about.
You're really selling me on this, Jackson. Just
you guys know nothing about it.
I have vaguely heard of it. When you said, I didn't know it by name, but when I looked, I'm like, oh yeah, I watched some YouTube videos about this. So mine's like a 1 out of 10, very surface level, like not that familiar.
And Charlie has never heard of anything to do with this before.
Never.
Okay. Well, it is actually one of the biggest mysteries, and it has been recommended. So
he hates that. Charlie knows he hates it, but other than that,
yeah, I already don't like it.
Okay, so what is it? Right? What is it? What is the Voynich Manuscript? Charlie, you can take it since you have no clue what it is.
It's a mysterious, undecodable 240-page book by an unknown author filled with strange, bizarre, childlike drawings and illustration of plants, astrological symbols, naked women operating bizarre machinery. Woo! The meaning and intent behind the Voynich Manuscript has eluded many for over 100 years. The script is neat but cramped. The script is neat but cramped on the page. You mean crimped on the page?
No, but it's like.
Oh, like cramped together. I see.
Yeah.
The script is neat but cramped on the page, forming sentences that have never been able to have been read due to them being written in a language unknown. Stranger still are the pictures littered throughout the book, some as normal as plants or herbs, then branching into unusual creatures and nude women seemingly posing in buckets or pipes.
God, I love the way you say herbs, by the way. You say it like herbs.
Yeah, it's herbs.
Why do you say it like that? Is that an American thing?
It's an American thing.
Yeah, but it's actually how it's pronounced, to be fair.
What do you mean? No,
it's herbs. It's herbs. It's fucking herbs.
You don't get to own pronunciation. Different countries.
I do when it's correctly pronounced.
Okay, whatever.
It's just fucking herbs.
Well, Jackson, what do you mean we don't get our own pronunciation? That's how pronunciations work.
No,
they're entirely
goober,
like, area based.
No, that's my point. He's saying that like the American pronunciation is the only pronunciation. That's what he's saying. I'm saying like you don't get to own the pronunciation itself. Like I have my own pronunciation because I'm Australian. I use the H. But okay. Anyway, regardless, continue.
Well, then after that, the Voynich Manuscript is a mystery within a book, which keeps researchers coming back time and time again to try and crack the hidden meaning once and for all. An impossible task is how do you decrypt a language with no clues?
Yeah, Charlie, how do you do that, huh?
You don't, because there's probably no meaning behind it.
Well, no, there's meaning behind it. We already know. We see the naked women with the machines and stuff. There's got to be meaning behind it, so how do you decrypt it?
You don't. This is just one guy's fucking fever dream that he had after fucking night nurse or something. Who cares?
Well, what you have to do is it could be code, right? So you look for patterns. You look for stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean that's how you would decrypt it if it wasn't some insane person rambling on about.
Okay, Jackson, you got to pick a lane. Is this decryptable or is this like completely like insane? Not going to do anything with it. I'll play both sides, but we can't both play both sides, okay? Because then we just have Charlie being mad the whole time.
I'll
gotta pick a lane.
Well, mad's not the right word. More so perturbed, perhaps, at best.
What is perturbing about it to you?
That anyone gives a fuck. It's just a random book of gobbledygook. Like, who cares?
I hope we get to the end of this, and it says it was written by the United States Customs Immigration.
Like, I'd go the other way. I think it'd be cool if it was written by like Da Vinci or something. That'd be kind of cool, I guess.
I was just referring to the people who kept the esports team from coming into the U.S.
Oh yeah, no.
To make you extra mad. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the idea of it being someone like Da Vinci though, and he just for some reason started writing in gobbledygook.
Now that would be funny. If like you knew you were like a beloved author who people would look at and you're like, all right, now one for fun. No.
Okay, Charlie, we're gonna do a red thread on your mindset here. Do you really truly not understand why people would find this interesting though, the book itself?
I mean, I do get it. Like, people love things like this, but just, I don't know, from a basic standpoint, if I ever stumbled across this, I'd be like, well, this is stupid.
If you came across a parchment,
That's the
or a
same
book
way you could
manuscript from the
describe like
1400s.
furries, though, or anything. Like,
Okay, well, I wasn't expecting furries to make an entrance into this episode.
well, they just did. Congratulations.
Well, yeah, you should have expected it.
Yeah, should have. What makes this like the furries, Isaiah?
No, I said it's the exact, like, the way he described it is like, well, I understand how some people could like it, but I
Yeah.
think it's
no, like
stupid.
I get why people
right.
would like it. It's not that I don't get it. It's just I personally don't give a fuck. It's just a book of mumbo jumbo. Like, I'm sure it had meaning to the author, but I don't think it has anything profound in its pages.
Well, it could have had a profound meaning to the author's like community at the time, so it is still like of historical significance, probably.
Yeah, that's certainly possible.
If Charlie was wearing like a fedora right now, he could be talking about the Bible.
Oh. Imagine.
The Bible doesn't matter to me. It's just a bunch of gobbledygook. I can see
I understand why some could be interested, but nay.
Okay, so a basic understanding of how we decrypt language, though, to kind of put it into perspective why this is indecipherable. It's virtually impossible to decrypt a language without any clues or references because understanding a language requires knowledge of the vocabulary, grammar, and importantly, context. For example, the decipherment of Egyptian hieroglyphs was only achieved due to the Rosetta Stone, a block of granodiorite containing both ancient Egyptian and ancient Greek texts. So we were only able to like decipher ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and the ancient Egyptian language because they were kind enough to leave a block with like the two languages next to each other, like ancient Egyptian and then ancient Greek below it, and we had an understanding of ancient Greek, so then we could compare the two. It still took a lot of effort, obviously, but that's the only reason we were able to decipher that. And we don't have that for the Voynich manuscript. They didn't leave behind a little cheat sheet showing us how to decipher the language or kind of contextual clues as to what the certain letters of or the characters meant in the grand scheme of things. So that's why it's impossible. We just have no way there's no key, basically, to unlocking the language and the secrets within about the Voynich manuscript. Isaiah, would you like to take the next paragraph?
Yes, absolutely. So, the Voynich manuscript is made out of a material called vellum, which is a form of parchment made out of calf skin. Radiocarbon analysis on the pages by the University of Arizona determined that the manuscript was dated around 1404 to 1438 to a 95% probability. The type of ink used indicated that the manuscript likely originated from northern Italy. It always blows my mind that we can get that level of detail.
Granularity? Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, well, the ink obviously indicates this town in Italy around this year. Like, man.
Yeah, Charlie's unimpressed. That doesn't impress
I'm
him.
not impressed.
Yeah, no.
He
Could have done that just by looking at it.
Yeah, I could do that.
Oh, so just because some man from the sky told you to make a book, I can't imagine it without like an eye, a monocle, and a fedora right now, like snuffing his nose at the book.
Yeah, all that Charlie cares about is that it's old. That's the amount of granularity he needs. That's the information that he needs.
The only thing I think is cool here is the titties in it. That's it.
yeah, brother, let's go. 4th of July. God
I know
bless
who
America.
wrote this book. It was my Uncle Todd, damn it.
Oh, Todd, you old rapscallion, always going to northern Italy. Not like they do that all the time with like Jane Does or John Does that are found, like bodies, where they'll be able to be like, oh, well, this person 3 weeks before death vacationed to this region of Greece, but they still can't determine like whose name it is. It's wild.
Yeah, just by like the pollen found on their skin or something.
Yes,
like that.
yeah, so something absurd like that. But yeah, it always never ceases to amaze me.
It is super impressive, yeah. And I mean, for determining that this came from the specific years between 1404 and 1438, not just like a century, or just by saying like it came from the Middle Ages or something like that.
24 years. Yeah.
Like 600 years in the future, being able to determine that, pretty like super impressive, yeah. Super cool.
The document is organized into folios, a term used in manuscript and book terminology referring to a single piece of paper or parchment. The sheet can be folded to create 2 pages, but each side of the sheet is still 1 page or 1 folio. The Voynich Manuscript is organized into these numbered folios sequentially. Each one typically has 2 sides, labeled recto, the front side, or verso, the back side.
See, I would have assumed recto was the back side, right? Because of recto.
You would think, yeah.
Yeah, what's up with that? Must be the Voynich language.
I think that kind of recto is like the one connected to the term like erect, right?
Okay, well,
like same root word, which refers to like front or forward facing or something like that. Because I know like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, sure. The manuscript has over 200 pages, 116 folded folios, but 14 are conspicuously missing, which we can tell based on the numbering.
There you go. There's the intrigue, Charlie. 14 of them are missing. Now there's a mystery. Yeah.
Where'd they go? Where'd they go?
All right, I'm going to become a Voynich believer just to counter whatever this energy that Charlie's bringing to the room is.
Yeah, he hates the Voynich.
This non-believer tone.
Who knows what... The secret to life may have been on those 14 pages, or even bigger titties. Bigger titties, like really gratuitous.
Yeah, have you considered that, Charlie?
I can't say I have considered that.
That they could be even bigger? And what if you were reading the extra pages and it explains like the rule of 2 or something, huh?
Oh. Well, I already know the rule of 2. I wouldn't need a textbook to tell me how it works.
Okay, well, what if that's where it came from, huh? Thought at least you appreciate that.
We decipher it. It says it's been written by Darth Bane, Darth Insanius, Darth Tyrannus, one of them.
The Voynich manuscript itself has been commonly divided into 6 sections by researchers, each one identified by the different style of illustrations pictured. So the first section is the herbal section, the herbal section.
Oh. I didn't even like that one. I want you to go back to herbal. I did not like the enunciation there.
The herbal portion takes up about half of the manuscript, with 1 or sometimes 2 drawings of plants and paragraphs, most likely about the plant next to it on each page. Although some plant illustrations seemingly resemble plants we know, none of the drawings have been identified conclusively. For example, people think folio 33V could be a sunflower, but it's just different enough as to where people are unable to confirm it. Many pictures also illustrate strange and intricate root systems on the plants, some forming little balls at the end of their roots, and some sprawling wide across the pages. The drawings are generally accompanied by a paragraph or 2 of text in an unknown language.
Yeah, so, okay, let's have a look at the photo now, Charlie. What do you think of that, huh? That's not of this world.
You're right. I ain't seen shit like that. Corn on the cob in the sky? That's nuts.
Wait, which one are you looking at?
What are you talking about? The herbal one.
He's looking at the 33. He's looking at 33V. I can see that as corn on the cob.
I can see the corn of the cob now. Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so maybe aliens, huh? Maybe it's an alien angle.
That's probably what it is.
Drawings from an alien world.
Yeah, that's the Occam's razor of this question for sure.
So I looked it up as well. Apparently it was like super difficult to draw it all like this back in the 1400s, believe it or not. Like the process of creating ink. I'm not going to go into the details, but creating ink was very difficult back then, and painters were like very rare. So this would have taken a lot of time and effort to like draw this kind of stuff. And it still looks like a child drew it, so not a great use of time.
You know those old paintings where it's like someone who's never seen like a rhino tries to draw a rhino, and it's like they're trying to draw something based on descriptions, so it looks really weird. This is kind of what that looks like to me. Like they haven't seen the actual thing they're talking about. They're just like working off of a description.
I could believe that it's like a kind of an anatomical drawing of like some plant that they've seen. I could just believe it. Like I could kind of see the sunflower. What is like the COVID things down the bottom by its root system? Like why'd they draw?
See, that's what I mean. Someone could be like someone said, oh well, it's like the brown roots underground, and then they connect to like these like kind of ball things, but they have their own growths off of that, and that's like how you would describe that outright. But that looks so weird. You know?
Yeah.
Wait a second. You know what an interesting theory might be? This is jumping ahead a bit, but so these we know these pages were from the 1400s, right?
Right.
Just before that, there was a little known thing floating around called the Black Plague or the Black Death. So what if this folio right here is about like the Black Death's impact on plants or something? Because look, it's like corrupting the root system below, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's interesting.
they had no way of knowing what like microscopic organisms looked
true.
like.
They wouldn't have known how to draw that. That's probably not even. Yeah, true.
Because the Black Plague would be like, it was often depicted as like the Grim Reaper or like rot or something.
What if the manuscript writer was a time traveler who went back in time, but through the process of going back through time?
Okay, now I'm starting to understand.
Now we're in.
Now you're speaking right language.
Let's go.
For some reason, the process of traveling back in time broke like the brain center language area of your brain, and he couldn't understand language anymore.
No. You're going about the wrong direction.
You're losing it now.
He's speaking in a future language that hasn't been invented yet.
Fuck.
There you go. He goes all the way back to the Black Plague to research, can't get back to the future, so he starts to document things in a script that has not yet been invented.
So he comes from a future where corn on the cob is grown like that.
Yes, he's trying to describe it. Or alternatively, this was a kind of plant that existed back during the Black Death but was never documented. Maybe he goes back then and starts to document flora and fauna that went extinct and we don't know about.
Due to the Black Death, right? The Black Death ate the corn.
Exactly.
The corn plants.
It killed the reproduction of it. So he begins to write about it in the language he knows, which is a future language.
Right.
Fuck, it makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. But now what he's done is he's created a cyclic event where we have the language in existence before it becomes invented, because we have the Voynich Manuscript. So either it's a sort of paradox where the language is created off of his writing of the language, now taken to the past.
Oh my God.
Or the language is created in independence of it, which would also, depending on which way it goes, explain paradoxes in time travel. If it was always inevitable to happen, or it only happens because of these self-fulfilling prophecies.
I agree.
Yes.
What if it's just a prop from Lord of the Rings? The language kind of looks like it looks elvish, right?
It does look kind of elvish. Yeah.
I can see that. Maybe it's just a really, really detailed prop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But yeah, the time traveler came back with the prop from the Lord of the Rings museum. Charlie, do you want to take the second section?
Yep. This section of the manuscript depicts intricate illustrations of celestial objects, zodiac signs, and circular diagrams that often feature the sun, the moon, and our stars. There are a lot of familiar symbols in this section, like the 2 fish for Pisces, a ram for Aries, a bull for Taurus, twins for Gemini, and more. Symbols are surrounded by concentric circles filled with star patterns, nude women in strange poses, and more unidentifiable text.
So what's interesting, how long ago did we come up with these symbols denoting the astrological signs, like Gemini being twins, Scorpio?
Like 10 years ago, maybe.
So it is a time traveler then, it has to be.
It is. That dates all the way back to Greece and Rome.
Okay.
Yeah. So way, way older than this.
That probably means that whoever wrote this had some understanding of other languages.
See, that's what's interesting about the manuscript. It's not just someone who's illiterate. Like, they have an understanding of, like, astrology. They have some understanding of at least the way that a personal, like, manuscript would be laid out and, like, definitions next to things. Because, like, sure, literacy was rare back then. But for someone to put something, like, look at the Pisces depiction, how concentric that is and stuff. Someone who's able to do that and then write what looks like legible text next to it implies some level of, like, learned intelligence. So maybe it's like a personal code. Maybe he wrote it in some kind of, like, something only he and, like, maybe secret societies were a big thing back then, right? Maybe this was the language of him in a society, and this is the only existing, record of it. which is interesting.
The scientific nature of the document and like the kind of process the person would have gone through to create it, and like the concentric circles and stuff, that probably would have been hard to pull off for an unlearned individual. The whole thing would have been difficult for someone without some level of knowledge and understanding. It would be hard for them to pull it off. Impossible for them to pull it off even. So yeah, I would assume that person would have some level of understanding of the popular languages at the time to write in, which would have been Latin at the time. So it is weird that there's this unknown language filtered in, which does make me think like secret society or secret language, or some kind of made up thing instead of just a lost language.
I'll go ahead and take the third section as well. This is the balneological. The section is mainly known.
I knew you'd take it. I knew you'd take it when I saw the women.
This, don't you?
I know what you're about.
This section is mainly known to feature many illustrations of nude women, often referred to as nymph-like, with interconnecting tubes and capsules. The term balneological refers to the science of therapeutical use of baths. Many of the women are depicted with rosy cheeks, some with blonde hair, some with brunette, together in some sort of water. Some of these illustrations are quite bizarre, women standing up in baths from the ground with their hands in wavy pipes. Researchers have speculated that this section could represent anything from a guide to medicinal baths to ritualistic practices. The repetitive depictions of water, bathing, and interconnected vessels also raise questions about medieval concepts of health, hygiene, and possibly even spiritual purification.
What is that one right there? That's the one I want to know. The naked woman standing in like a small little basket of water, putting her hands into two giant Tetris tubes. Like, what is that?
You know what this kind of reminds me of? This is almost like those kids' textbooks that explain to you like how your body works, where it's like, the mitochondria moves over to the nucleus. It depicts everything as like little people walking around. This almost looks like someone trying to explain like body systems, like what the heart does, what digestion is, stuff like that. It almost looks like the fourth one in the bottom right almost looks like a GI tract or something. It's like him trying to explain the body's processes to someone who doesn't understand it using people, but he can't put little guys inside of the body because that's gay. So he makes a bunch of naked women.
This one's for my bros. I gotta find a way to get dudes interested in this. I'm gonna put naked chicks.
Put naked women all over it. Yep. Yeah.
I think it's just that the guy got bored writing half the book about like plants and boring shit like that, astrological signs and stuff. So then he got horny, and then this is where it went. There's like centerfolds as well, weirdly enough, like ones that like an actual porno mag or a magazine where like you fold them out into like a giant picture. Not necessarily of like naked women for those, but there are centerfolds, which is cool. Yeah, I agree with you though. I think it's some kind of like knowledge base for early stage understanding of human biology, because there are like drawings of like fallopian tubes looking things as well, and things like that. So I agree.
Maybe that's what she is. The girl with the Tetris pipes. Maybe that's a uterus.
God, I don't know. That one and the one above it are the most confusing things ever.
The alligator pipe's pretty good. I like the alligator pipe.
Okay, so for audio listeners, right? It's a woman standing in like a tube. The tube is connected to a set of pipes with outlets that are spraying water everywhere. The pipes themselves have like, what would you call that? Like alligator scales on it, maybe?
Yeah, the alligator pipe.
And then she's like naked. The woman is naked and pressing on the pipes, like covering. Wait, no, is she covering like the holes of the pipes to stop the water from coming out of it?
Oh, you're right. That's what it is. Yeah.
But then there's a third one shooting it directly into her face. I don't know. I'm so confused.
This is him describing how pee is stored in the balls. That's what this is.
I think we finally cracked it with that.
We did it. Yeah.
Does she look? This is impolite to assume, but does she look pregnant there?
She does look. Well, I think honestly that might just be how he likes him, because most of the women,
they were quite peculiar looking.
He's got a type,
Yeah, curvy. Yeah. Very interesting.
My
A lot of
body
writing
is
around this.
full of curvy naked women, and you can't tell me otherwise.
Are we going to be able to put this on screen? It's academic,
I mean, it's
right? We can
a
put this on
drawing
screen.
from the 1400s. Like, I hope so.
Yeah.
I got away with showing Gustave Doré. He did a bunch of like topless women in like the 1800s, and he was actually a good artist. And I didn't get demonetized or anything for that, so I think
you're
we're
insulting
fine.
this artist now.
Yeah, shots fired.
I think you've got to play fair. If you are a man, you have to have tiny little men inside of you. I don't care what the church says. Like you got, I think this guy's playing the field a bit too much.
I am impressed by this man's artistic talent. I couldn't draw this good. He was doing it like 600 years ago with like sticks and stuff, probably. Like it was that hard at the time. So I'm impressed, all things considered.
Yeah.
I do like the alligator tube. I like the alligator tube. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I wish the entire reason as to why I hope that this is eventually deciphered is so I can figure out what that alligator tube is. That's the most interesting thing.
What's crazy about it is he would mix these drawings with like the next drawings we're going to look at. So it's like these insanely complex, weird details. And then like the woman's got her hands in the tubes.
Yeah, it's strange. All right, you can take the next one.
So the fourth kind of section in there is the cosmological one. This is unrelated, but the picture of all the women in the green pool reminded me. Are you all familiar with that story of like the leader? I think it was a king of something who him and like 8 other people died because the floor collapsed and they fell into the septic tank.
No, when was this?
No.
This was like old school. I know this is a tangent, but it's interesting.
Is it common to live above a septic tank?
Well, it was in like a castle or something, right? So the toilets would, I mean, septic tank's a strong word for a hole in the ground, right?
Right.
So
So it's just a shit room. They fell in the shit room.
Yeah, pretty much. I googled it. It's called the Erfurt latrine disaster.
Oh, no.
Wow.
No.
That's
King
a
Henry
super cool name.
Henry VI, King of Germany, at the cathedral, the combined weight of the assembled nobles caused the wooden second-story floor of the building to collapse. Most of the attendants fell through into the latrine cesspit below ground floor, where about 60 of them drowned in liquid excrement.
Oh my god.
60 people
60.
drowning.
Oh
Yeah,
my
well, I mean,
God.
imagine that, like, how, like, shoddy stuff was built back then. And it was all the nobles of the Holy Roman Empire gathered together, and they drowned in poop. 60 people.
It's like the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones, but worse somehow. It says, of those
Yeah.
who died, many drowned in human excrement or suffocated from the fumes emitted by the decomposing waste. They literally, some of them didn't even drown. They just they got stunk to death. That's so fucking awful.
I wonder, they didn't pull everyone out. They probably
Why
pulled
would
out
you?
the king and stuff, but the rest, they probably just like, all right, well, build over it.
Ugh, man.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, the draw, that came to mind looking at the second drawing of all the women in the pit. I had to mention it.
I don't understand why you would do that though. Like, wouldn't it be common to like have latrines outside, not in the castle?
Well, at some of these places, they would put them interior for convenience, and they just assumed the craftsmanship was good enough. It's wild because, like, the Romans had a lot of this stuff down pat, right? 1,000 years prior, like bathhouses and stuff like that. And then 1,000 years later, there's accidents like that happening left and right because people don't know what they're doing. It's weird how the knowledge of tech can be lost, you know?
Yeah.
And it puts us back. The Dark Ages scare me. Anyway, the fourth kind, cosmological. The cosmological section is one of its most intriguing and visually captivating parts, but also one of the more confusing to actually look at. They're also on fold-out pages. One particular 6-page spread, often called rosettes folio, has 9 circular forms all connected to one another. Many have theorized about what this could possibly mean. An astronomical or cosmological map? A secret code? Plant cells? Many think it may be a stylized map connecting cities, castles, or even baths, which would connect bank to the balneological section of the book.
Yes, so there's a link here. This is going to be up on screen. It's impossible to describe what this looks like. It's really cool. It's kind of like I don't know, how would you describe this? Like a pattern of symbols, basically forming a giant ring.
It almost looks like fractals.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I think they're called mandalas, right, or something like that. Maybe, but I don't know. It's really hard to describe. It's on screen if you want to go over to the video episode to look at it. I have no clue what it could possibly mean. Like maybe a map, like set in the document. There are like smaller little drawings of like the people in the baths still, so it could be baths or a city of like a drawing of a city. I'm not sure. It is wild though. It's definitely very interesting to look at, and I think it goes back as evidence to that this was maybe intelligence not the right word, but an educated man for the time, an educated person at the time.
It kind of reminds me of the Divine Comedy a little bit.
The 9 circles, or is it 7?
The 9 circles, yeah. Well, so everyone knows the 9 circles of hell, right? But there's also 9 circles of heaven in Paradiso. And the way that Dante kind of described a lot of the shapes and imagery he saw in the 9 circles, it kind of reminds me of that. It almost is like Dante's depiction of heaven, which would have come out about 100 years before this book did. So
interesting. But when you say it came out 100 years before, like, was it? There were no like bookstores, right? It wasn't like on the bestseller list at the airport for this peasant, I doubt.
No, but in Italy, it was circulated everywhere. Like,
we believe that this manuscript came from Italy,
Northern Italy.
Yeah.
And Dante was the most famous Italian poet, arguably of all time, but certainly of the era.
Yeah, so if it's an educated person, then they would have definitely
they would know who Dante is.
Yeah, come across it. And there are 9 circles in that, so it's definitely possible. But without the text, it's impossible.
I mean, who knows? Yeah, it's all guess. Yeah,
what it actually means. All right, so that's the cosmological one. I'll take the pharmaceutical. The 5th chapter, the pharmaceutical chapter. This section of the manuscript contains illustrations and text that seem to relate to herbal medicine and remedies. It has detailed drawings of plants, roots, and other botanical elements, accompanied by jars, vessels, and other containers that might be used in the preparation and storage of medicinal medicine. Isn't it the same word twice? Medicinal medicine.
I love that. Medicinal medicine. Jackson, you've done it again.
Yeah, excellent choice of words.
Adjective. I like the alliteration. Even though the text is unreadable, the layout appears to document specific processes and methods for combining and using botanical ingredients, accompanied by drawings of unidentifiable herbs and plants. So I think my idea of the book is that it was like a kind of like the modern day equivalent of an ancient equivalent of the modern day self-help book, kind of like teaching people about like spirituality as well as like baths and stuff like that, taking baths to reduce stinkiness, your reproductive organs, and then like a cookbook at the end for like things to make to heal yourself, basically. Which leads. It does
kind of look like organs, doesn't it? Some of it.
What's that?
It does kind of look like organs. Some of it.
I was specifically, going back to the I can't pronounce it. The
balneological
section. Yeah, a lot of the stuff in there looks organs. Same with some other stuff in here. So that leads on to the 6th chapter, Charlie.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take it. This is recipes. So this is the recipe section. No drawings, just short paragraphs in a dot point format with stars running down the left side. And strangely, every second star has a red dot in the middle. Due to the formatting and structure of the paragraphs, it resembles recipe instructions, and pages resemble medieval recipe collections or herbal remedy books.
Yeah, so see, with the power of context, right, we can determine probably that this was some kind of, like I said, book designed to help people at the time. Like maybe something that a herbalist would have.
I didn't like Charlie's tone with that part. I want you to do it again, but happy. And
I do not want to do a happy tone.
And trusting, joyful even.
I will say one thing, it's an aesthetically pleasing to look at language that doesn't exist.
You think so?
Yeah, I actually think it looks really cool when it's formatted this way.
Again, I think this is some secret society language or something.
What would be the purpose of a secret society drawing this stuff?
Well, they do that a lot. Like, they'll have their own languages and codes and stuff like that.
Oh, no, I get having their own languages, but, like, theoretically, hypothetically, why would a secret society be drawing, like, pictures of, like, plants and stuff and, like, women in
Well,
baths?
it depends on what the subject matter is, but it could be, like, sharing of knowledge, or maybe it's some kind of manuscript they wrote out about, like, their...
Club members are required to take a bath each week because the convention hall was getting too stinky.
Yeah, sure. Or
that
just
could be
like general opinions of like health or the sciences at the time, something like that. That would explain a lot of the astrological stuff.
What was the biggest secret society in Italy at the time? Do you know? I feel like you would know.
I don't, Jackson. I'm sorry.
Not you. I was referring to you.
The Illuminati didn't show up till the 1700s. What would the secret? It would be something through the church, of course, through Rome.
The Catholic Church.
The Holy Roman Empire, I think, exists. Yeah, it would have existed around then. Secret Society, Italy.
Were the Jesuits a thing by that point?
They were. They've been a thing for a while. The Jesuits been a thing since like pre-1000. The Jesuits actually designed most of our modern calendar.
Hey, that's good. I like the calendar.
Which is why
Big
it's
fan.
all centered around Jesus and stuff like that.
Counting down to it. Counting back from it.
Yeah. Making Jesus's, birth the centerpiece of it. It would be something through like maybe a monastery or again the church. I can't think of any super big famous ones. The Carbonaries showed up in like 1800, and then like I said before that, you had like the Illuminati throughout Europe. Freemasonry, I don't think was a thing yet. I don't think. I'm not sure honestly in that age which one would be the top dog. Some church related thing.
Yeah, some church related thing or some kind of spiritual cult or something like that has not, lasted beyond that point in time would be my guess. Okay, so today the Voynich Manuscript is located in the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University. But how did it get there? The timeline is filled with holes and unknowns, but let's try and backtrack to figure out what happened to the Voynich Manuscript. Maybe then some light will be shed on it.
1409 to 1438. It was around this time that the Voynich manuscript is created. Exact date unknown. We know this due to the radiocarbon dating conducted on the manuscript's vellum. This time period covered the late Middle Ages and the early Renaissance in Europe. When we think about it in that context, the contents of the book speaks to that of mankind post-Black Death and that of a shift of interest towards art, literature, and science. As such, it makes sense to believe that the manuscript came from somewhere in Europe during that time period. Next, the early 1500s. The Voynich manuscript was owned by Emperor Rudolf II of Germany. According to the Beinecke Library website, he purchased it for 600 gold ducats and thought to be the work of Roger Bacon. Roger Bacon was an English philosopher from the 13th century who was renowned for his work in science, math, and philosophy. The nature of the manuscript's mysteries and scholarly layout was likely the reason that Emperor Rudolf II believed that the book came from him. It's thought that he acquired the book from English astrologer John Dee, who allegedly owned another of Roger Bacon's work. We can pretty much now rule out that Roger Bacon wrote the manuscript as he died in 1292, many years before the manuscript was written.
What is up with these names? Like John Dee and Roger Bacon from like the 1200s?
That's pretty cool.
Super like generic names. I guess
they were
generic.
They were European, so,
Yeah, I don't know. Roger Bacon just sounds like a really cool name, though.
Everyone's name was like John, Roger, Peter, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I guess they're generic because they were so popular at that time.
There's a character in the Bible named Jason. Like,
this feels so out of place, yeah.
I know.
That's true.
It's funny because Paul's writing, he's like, bring with thee Timotheus, Bartholomew, and Jason.
1608 to 1662, the manuscript is then given to Jacopus Horkiki D.
Well, there we go.
Depinix.
That's better.
Yeah.
John, Roger, and Jacobus Horsiski de Tepenix. The greatest crews known to mankind.
The gang.
It's not known why, although there's stories that he, as an imperial chemist, healed the emperor of an unknown disease. Evidence of Jacopus's ownership can be found on the first folio, where his signature, though now faded and barely visible, can be seen. Jacopus Horkiki D. Tepinix was a pharmacist and doctor to Emperor Rudolph II, and therefore quite proximate member of his court. Some think the manuscript was given as a gift for all of his services. Others theorize that it may have been entrusted to him to study and decipher.
Okay, so all of this to me, like, 100% proves someone who was educated and knew what they were doing wrote this. Because why else? I know books were rare, so you would probably keep them for anything.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the emperor has it in the early 1500s, a book that only would have been written like at most 80, 90 years ago, right?
Well, so remember, in the 1500s, Emperor Rudolph II of Germany bought it, purchased it for 600 gold ducats, I think they're called. I don't know.
Yeah,
because he thought it was Roger Bacon's.
Yeah, he thought it was Roger Bacon who wrote it, who was a well-known, smart man at the time. He bought it from an English astrologer named John Dee. So, yeah, it's likely that people at the time thought it was like something of intense knowledge.
Yeah, it had to be from someone. It had the tellings of someone significant, and maybe, like, even though to us it seems gibberish, I mean, it could just be the drawings too, sure. But maybe there was some knowledge, like I said, a society or a language that quit existing, that kind of dropped off the map for a while. Although you wouldn't think we would completely lose track of a language that was so well founded it had like written text. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think it's a lost language.
I
really don't think it's a lost language. There would have been other like evidence of it. There would have been the language across other sources.
Yeah, because this has zero like development or anything off of another pre-existing language.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Also, I mean, another hypothesis could just be that Emperor Rudolph II of Germany was a bit of a horn dog and like naked pictures of women, maybe. I don't know how much 600 gold ducats is at the time, but maybe it's just he saw the naked women and he didn't understand the words.
This book, Roger Bacon, the great. Yes, I'll take it.
Yes, I'll buy this one.
Yes.
Good source of knowledge.
Smart and literature. Yes, very smart, very literature. Yes.
How common were naked women? Drawings of naked women at the time. Like,
how common were naked women is a great question. Did they exist before the internet?
If I could look at them on Pornhub, yeah, like
Jackson walking into the club. How common are the naked women around?
Pardon me, patrons. Where are the naked women? I was told I was common.
I know there's a lot of like people who would make money in ancient times by like drawing naked women for porn, and selling it to people.
Yeah.
So it had, some knowledge. People knew it was out there.
Yeah, so it wouldn't have been like a rarity maybe for him, so that probably rules out the idea that he just bought it for the naked women.
Like that kind of culture's always existed. There's a reason they call like brothels or prostitution the oldest job in the world, right? Like,
yeah,
that's been around a long time. So there were people, drawings of it and stuff like that were not uncommon.
Yeah, no, I understand that sentimentality. It's more so like I'm trying to decide if he bought it for the naked women, though. And I guess that would be determinant on if
maybe the emperor also has a thing for like those curvy women.
Ones, yeah, he's looking for a specific fetish to be met. Yeah,
he has a fetish for what, them going through tubes, I guess.
Yeah, he loves the wacky Rube Goldberg machinery.
He's into vor. He's like,
yeah, this is the earliest example of vor. True.
Yeah. Yeah, he commissioned it. He's like, I need you to draw women getting digested, but put a bunch of like text around it so it looks like a manuscript or something.
Yeah, I need plausible deniability.
I also need you to use ink from northern Italy 100 years ago so no one can track it.
Yeah. This is the first porn commission.
Yep.
So now we move on to the late 1600s when the manuscript was in possession of Johannes Marcus Marci, scientist and doctor in Prague. The link between Jacopus and Johannes is foggy and unknown. It was possibly held by George Baresh, a Prague alchemist. In between, there have been stories told about Gorg having the book in his library, calling it Sphinx.
He's not an ogre. You could just call him George.
No, there's no E on it, so he's just Gorg.
That's just how it was spelled. It's still George.
Nah, it's Gorg.
That's classic Gorg. From fucking Middle Earth.
I don't know why that's so funny to me, just seeing someone named George and being like, Gorg, how are you doing today? Slay any villages recently?
Alright, what did Gorg do with the book?
He called it a Sphinx because he was puzzled by its useless, unreadable book.
Yeah. So he didn't like the book very much. The Sphinx obviously being a reference to the riddle of the Sphinx, which is an Egyptian thing.
The phrase "a Prague alchemist" is so funny. Like, it might as well be wizards at this point. The people we're talking about.
What do alchemists do again? They like turn stuff into other stuff?
Yeah, they like...
yeah, more or less.
I mean, now it's effectively chemistry. But at the time, it was like the manipulation of matter, you know.
Yeah, really cool stuff. Because there's like the Philosopher's Stone or something, not the Harry Potter thing, right? That's what all the alchemists were searching for or something.
Well,
that's an anime plot.
Yeah, they weren't all searching for it per se, but it was a thing within alchemy.
Yeah.
That there was a stone that I think was supposed to be held by... Who was it that had it? Anyway, some like the first alchemist had it, and then Voldemort, and then it could turn any matter to something else.
Yeah, it was like you could turn anything into gold. I think, right? That's the idea.
Yeah. What was his name? Was it Charlemagne? Was Charlemagne the one that had it?
Well, I've heard of that name, so that might be it.
Well, Charlemagne had significance to the Holy Roman Empire. I can't remember. It's either that or there was some film plot that said Charlemagne had it. I can't remember.
We're getting all mixed up.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't matter.
You threw me off with the Harry Potter thing.
I don't remember what the Harry Potter character's name was with the two faces. Remember?
Flamel. Nicholas Flamel. That's where it comes from. Yeah.
Was that also the one that you were thinking about, though?
No, Charlemagne was older. Charlemagne was like...
the original Flamel.
Okay, sure. I'm done.
Continue on.
Now we move on to the 1665 to 1666. Johannes Marcus Marci sent the manuscript to Athanasius Kircher, German Jesuit scholar and polymath who published numerous works on geology, medicine, religion, and more. Johannes wrote Athanasius a letter which was found inside the manuscript saying that the book was left to him by a friend and believed that he was the only person who could decipher it. At first, only a few parts of the manuscript were sent to him to try and decipher. He was unsuccessful, but incredibly curious. He pushed to buy the book, which was initially met with refusal, but he did eventually manage to get his hands on it, though we know not of how. Then we go to 1666 to 1870. The Voynich Manuscript was kept at a Jesuit college in Rome called Collegio Romano, where it appears to have stayed for a long time undisturbed. Although one or more of the obscure items in their collection of the manuscripts and books, it did not attract much attention.
The name of the college in Rome was Collegio Romano.
College of Rome. You'll never guess what it is.
I think I can read Italian now.
It's no different to like University of Tampa or Florida, University of Florida.
It's just funny to be like, he stayed at the college in Rome called Collegio Romo.
Romo. All right. Let's continue.
1870, the Italian government confiscated Jesuit properties done to consolidate the newly unified Italian state and reduce the power and influence of the Catholic Church, including Collegio Romano. Some items from their collection stored there, including the Voynich Manuscript, were transferred to another Jesuit college which sat just near Frascati, near Rome in Italy. It was most likely stored here in a library among many other books and manuscripts, again, unnoticed.
You know what I'm surprised the most about, Charlie?
That anyone gave a fuck about it in the first place to keep track. Because me too.
No, I'm surprised that you don't care enough to question why it's called the Voynich Manuscript. You haven't said that at all yet. I haven't given you any kind of
figured
context.
It was named
for it.
after someone, and now we're getting to that person soon.
Well, yes. Okay.
I don't like your attitude about this.
Yeah. Well,
I want you to be happy. I want you to
he
be
hates
joyful.
books. I think it
does.
actually
Yeah.
comes down
So
to him
mad.
hating books.
I don't like literature. It's for nerds. 19. Well, go ahead.
No one was saying anything. I think we were
Oh, I thought I
laughing.
heard. Oh, sorry.
It was
I
the
thought I heard
spirit of Voynich getting mad at Charlie because he doesn't
Yeah.
like books. That's what that noise
something.
was.
Let him come. 1912. This is when we get to the reason behind the manuscript's name. Up until this point, it wasn't known as the Voynich Manuscript, rather referred to as simply whoever owned it at the time's manuscript. That concept didn't change in the 1900s either. Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer and antiquarian. As a young man, he was involved in the Polish revolutionary activities against Russia. He was actually arrested in 1885 by a Russian police force for his political activities and was imprisoned and sent to Serbia. He failed twice to escape the prison, but was successful on his third attempt. Using a fake passport, it took him 6 months to make it out of Russian territory, reportedly going through Mongolia, Peking, now Beijing, and to Hamburg, where he was forced to sell his overcoat and glasses for money to get a ticket to London.
I need to correct you. I know you hate being corrected, but I think you said Serbia. He was imprisoned in Siberia, which
Oh, Siberia, sorry.
yeah is different. I know people probably someone will care about that. So correction.
It's Jackson. His name's Jackson. That's who cares about it.
Yeah, I'm seething over here. How dare he?
He barely had any food, almost got shipwrecked on the way, but finally made it to London. He had nothing except apparently an address, written in Russian, of a man called Sergius Stepniak, another revolutionary who he wanted to seek out for aid. There is a story that Wilfrid was looking for someone who spoke his language to help him, and he saw a familiar face. The story is a bit unbelievable, but who knows? Apparently, when he was arrested, he looked out of the prison window and saw the face of a woman completely dressed in black, and here she was again in London. The woman, Ethel Lillian Boole, was also a revolutionary and knew Sergius Stepniak, if you can believe it.
Can you believe it? I can't. What are the
I
odds?
can.
She was over in Serbia. I mean Siberia. Fuck, you got me saying Serbia. So she was over in Siberia outside his prison, and then she was in London. So some people have taken this in like a more conspiratorial angle with the book, like a secret society guarding the book or something.
Mhm.
I don't know about that.
Or Voynich was insane.
Yeah, I think it's probably hallucinations. Wilfrid and Ethel went on to get married, and Wilfrid established himself as a rare book dealer with a specialty in having rare manuscripts and early prints of books. In 1911 or 1912, Wilfrid heard about a secret auction at the Vatican Secret Archive, now known as the Vatican Apostolic Archive.
Why would they call it the secret archive?
Yeah, it's just public. A secret because it was unbeknownst to the superiors at the time. He bought quite a few books here, including the now famous Voynich Manuscript. Wilfrid began to sell the other books he obtained, but he held on to that manuscript. He came to believe that it was written by Roger Bacon. Jesus Christ.
Everyone believes it was written by Roger Bacon, even though he died 100 years earlier.
And was some sort of manual to medieval magic he wanted to decode before he showed the public.
See?
Wilfrid,
See? There is magic involved, Charlie. It's kind of like the Necronomicon.
there's a fucking hallucinating prisoner who kept seeing a woman in black. I don't think there's magic.
There could be.
Charlie's so mad at the book.
That's a stupid book. Wilfrid moved to New York in 1914 at the beginning of World War I, where he set up another bookstore. It was here, in 1915, where he began to show the public the Voynich Manuscript, which he originally called the Roger Bacon Cipher Manuscript.
He's so desperate.
He's coaxing on Roger Bacon's good name.
I mean, it'd be more pretentious for him. That's like me finding a book and being like, "Oh yes, the secret Nichols manuscript." Like it.
Oh,
So I get it,
true.
but
yeah, if
it's
he called
funny
it the
how he
Voynich
keeps being
manuscript.
like the definitely, certainly Roger Bacon, no question about it book.
Yeah, I don't know why he came to believe that Roger Bacon wrote it. I guess
Well, that was the knowledge they had at the
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah,
Because
it
we
was
know now it wasn't.
it was
But
passed
when the
on
king
through
had
the
it,
owners. Yeah,
Or
because
the emperor
king
had
thought
it. Yeah,
so.
that was the idea.
Emperor Rudolph believed it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
then it was just passed on.
When he began to show it around, he lied about how he originally found it, protecting the secret auction that had actually taken place. He claimed he discovered it in a chest in an ancient castle in southern Europe, or a castle in Austria, or a castle of an Austrian nobleman. all slightly different versions of the same story. He said that the original owners of the chests had passed away and their collectibles forgotten about. The books he obtained had pages of identifiable text and names which Wilfrid actually removed, one page in particular saying, from the private library of P. Beckix, this being Petrus Beckix, who was the head of the Jesuit order in the mid-1800s.
It's crazy how many hands this book is crossed.
That's wild that he removed evidence of ownership so that his story made more sense.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Where's the ethics in antique owning, huh?
This secret lost book, hold on, let me tear out some of its history.
the
and now
copyrights
it
at the back.
came from a secret chest in Southern Europe.
Why is that more attractive, by the way? Just isn't it kind of more attractive to people to know the history? And it's still like got a history behind it.
Yeah, but if you say, because his whole story about it was some family's heirloom doesn't make sense if 50 years ago it was owned by Jesuits.
Yeah. I guess he needed to make the Roger Bacon story add up as well, probably.
Yeah. 1930 to 1960, Wilfrid Voynich died in 1930 without getting close to deciphering the manuscript. After his death, the manuscript went into possession of his wife Ethel, who kept it until her death in 1960. After her passing, the ownership of the manuscript went to Anne Nill, a friend and assistant to Ethel and Wilfrid. She was in charge of managing their estate and the manuscript after their deaths. Anne Nill went on to sell the manuscript in July of 1961 to Hans P. Klaus for $25,500. Apparently, Anne was unwell and felt pressure to sell the manuscript, which resulted in her selling it to Hans for way less than Wilfrid thought the manuscript was worth, $100,000.
No.
Hans P. Klaus was also a rare book collector and seller, and like Wilfrid, saw the Voynich manuscript as a high-value item. He attempted to sell it immediately, asking for $100,000, then later increasing the price to $160K.
The art of the deal, baby. He stole it from a dying woman, basically, and then immediately
You won't
tried to sell
Oh,
it.
you don't want it for 100,000? Well, maybe 160,000 will change your mind.
Due to market demand, I am increasing the price from 100,000 to 160,000.
He was not able to sell it, and in 1969 he donated the book to the Benecki Library. He explained that owning the manuscript felt like a burden because he was getting so many requests from scholars and researchers to access and research the book, so he decided that the right thing to do was turn it over to an institution where it could freely be studied.
That was a quote, by the way. That's a quote directly from him, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That last
Though seemingly a selfless act in the name of research and education, there was actually a change in a particular tax law that year. Taxpayers were able to donate appreciated property to a charity organization and get the tax reduction for the full market price value. And on top of donating the manuscript, Haynes also gave his very why'd you call him Haynes here? It's Hans.
Whatever. Hans.
Hans also gave his very valuable collection of Spanish manuscript Americana over to the Library of Congress. Now, getting to the present.
Isn't that kind of how like the art world operates as well, with donating donating
More or
art to
less.
get massive tax benefits? It's like a tax rort.
It's all money laundering, yeah.
Yeah.
The Voynich manuscript has sat in the Benecki Rare Book and Manuscript Library ever since, where it's kept in a controlled environment with restricted access to protect the fragile 600-year-old document.
Yeah, I feel like look at it in this little box there.
It's so cute.
One breeze would just disintegrate it. It must be so stressful keeping something like that. Although I'm not sure how much it's actually worth in
$0. You couldn't
Well,
do
now
that.
because of the hype built around it, it probably is worth a ton of money.
Yeah. Okay, Isaiah, I'm asking you specifically because I think you'll actually engage with the question. What is the Voynich manuscript about? Do you want to take it?
Exactly. So,
I'm gonna take a tinkle real quick.
Yeah, you're gonna go take a shit or something.
I don't care what it's about.
Gonna go do something more useful with your time.
have we deciphered anything? Well, no. The true nature of the Voynich manuscript remains a complete mystery. Despite extensive studies and analysis on the documents, there has not been a single explanation that has been universally accepted, but here are some theories. For one, that it is a medieval herb or science health text. The Voynich manuscript is filled with pages of botanical illustrations, although unrecognizable, that dominate a very large portion of the document. Alongside the drawings of containers and jars, it suggested a knowledge on herbal remedies and the medicinal properties of plants and herbs. There are sections that seem to depict anatomical diagrams, zodiac charts, and what appear to be pharmaceutical recipes, which supports the idea that the manuscript may be a health manual. Medieval herbal science often combined botany, medicine, and astrology, all featured heavily in the Voynich Manuscript. I agree and think this
Yeah.
is the most likely. The only question is, what is the language?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can understand the context of like what the contents may have been due to the images, right? Like some kind of health manual.
Yeah.
So some also believe that the manuscript may be a manual for women looking to treat Jesus Christ,
Take your time.
reproductive issues in women. An article by the Daily Mail in 2017 reported that an expert in medieval manuscripts, Nicholas Gibbs, pointed out that the illustrations and contents were reminiscent of those used by women. No shit, right? I mean, it was mostly
You've got naked
pictures
women in
of
there.
women.
Could be related to women. Who
Yeah,
knows?
what do you mean? For example, the nude women in the baths, which were often used as a form of healing in the past, and the plant illustrations may be referring to aromatherapy healing, both of which were popular with women at the time. This has been widely disputed as firstly, Gibbs claimed that the manuscript was written in shorthand Latin, but linguists and cryptographers have not found any clear parallels between the script's writing and the Latin language, which puts doubts on his ideas. Some think it's more like Hebrew. So there's been like a few people that have come out over time to say like, oh, we've cracked the Voynich manuscript. It's actually like a language based off Hebrew, and then they like. There's one specific example of someone doing that, and they use Google Translate to translate it from Hebrew to like English, and it just didn't make sense. Like the outcome didn't make sense. So yeah, some people see Hebrew, while others see more a likeness with Mandarin Chinese, Pinyin. So there's nothing confirmed in terms of like the language.
Yeah.
So it's hard to take those claims seriously. There's also doubt as the botanical illustrations in the manuscript are unidentifiable, posing questions on how these unknown plants would be able to assist in women's health. So yeah, because we can't tell what the fuck the drawings of the plants were like meant to be. We don't know if they were good for women or not. So that could shed some doubt on it. Maybe it was like a book of like poisonous plants for killing people, maybe. Like an assassination book. I don't know.
I will say now that Charlie's back, he can read the next section. I'm going to go pee because I don't want to hear him defame the good name of this book.
We're just trading peas back and forth.
It's so cute.
The language in the Voynich manuscript, often referred to as Voynichese, has a strong consistency in its text. There's a unique set of 25 characters and consistent structure, which leads the general belief that it could be a coherent language rather than just nonsense. There is, however, no punctuation, no errors crossed out, or words rewritten, and an interesting distribution of characters, predominantly at the beginning of words, while others occur more frequently in the middle or end of words. In the research document, The Linguistics of the Voynich Manuscript by Claire L. Bowen and Luke Lindemann, they conclude that the character level metrics show the manuscript as unusual. The word and line level metrics, however, show it to be like a normal, regular language and within the range of a number of plausible languages unlikely to be manufactured. There have been studies that indicate that while completely unreadable, the manuscript does make some sort of sense and are 90% similar to other books known at the time, like the Bible. This is a quote. Our research has shown that the Voynich manuscript presents a great deal of statistical patterns that are similar to those of natural languages. That was from Dr. Diego Amancio at the University of Sao Paulo.
So that's a expert weighing in on the matter, basically saying like it could be a natural language. But then that raises the question of like, why do we not see evidence of this language anywhere else, right?
Well, again, like if it's like a society thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Because that's where you would have languages develop without any pre-existing steps to get there. Just like boom, and like yeah. Well, I mean, like if right now, if me and you were to sit down and we were to be like, okay, we're going to make a secret code that only we can speak, like our own alphabet and stuff, and then we write it down and communicate in that. There's no pre-existing steps to get to that language. There's no like archaeological trace of where the language came from. We just came up with it all at once.
Yeah,
it's not like a
okay,
naturally developing language where there's like tribes and groups and you see it adapt over time.
Yeah,
it just
so that's the
appears.
difference between like natural languages where it's something that's born in the community and kind of progresses over time.
Yeah, there's no dialect, there's no history, it just happens.
There's usually with those ones, there's like a base language that it is adapted from, whereas this is like with a secret society or whatever, it's just like entirely made up. I guess, yeah. That does make sense. And that goes in nicely with the next one.
A cipher or code. So, ciphers were not uncommon around the time the Voynich manuscript was written. Many scholars, alchemists, and political figures using codes to protect sensitive information. It's almost like I'm cool. And sometimes the script in the manuscript has entirely unique characters that are unknown to any other language existing at the time. But there are patterns and repetitions of certain words and letters that suggest there could be meaning in the text, hence it being a language of some kind. The characters in the text could be replacing certain letters, and other cipher techniques may be layers to create a more unique, difficult to decode cipher. Decoding it has been attempted by many cryptographers, linguists, computer scientists, and more, but no one has been able to crack it. It's not an unusual thought for advanced ciphers to be created around this time. Take Steganographia, sure, by Johannes Truthemius. That's a fake name.
Truthmius. Yeah, absolutely a fake name. Truthmius. He makes riddles.
Yes. Truthmius, which was written around 1499 BC and combined elements of cryptography and steganography. Yeah, there you go. No, I do think the most likely answer is that it is a cipher or code. But if we were to decipher it, it's probably just like herbal remedies at the time.
Yeah. But why? Why would they go through that entire trouble, that trouble of making a
if they wanted the
society
information to be kept to them, especially in 1400s Italy, because Italy was in the middle of like a lot of like city-states were at war with the church, and the church was at war with the Holy Roman Empire, and they were fighting the Vatican, and there's like all these different like battles and stuff going on. So if you wanted your information to be kept to yourself, you would basically develop your own code so that, you know, your enemies couldn't get it.
Yeah, especially if it's like the book is like a map to all the sauciest bathhouses around the place. You would want that
of
to
course.
stay secret.
You don't want them to find your naked, curvy women.
All right, Charlie, take a big old hoax.
Well, this isn't what I believe. I don't think it's a hoax. I think it's just a fucking insane person, to be fair. Another theory that many believe is that the Voynich Manuscript is just a hoax. Even though there's strange signs in the text which show genuine, obscure, or coded language, it's argued that we probably would have made progress in deciphering it by now. There are certain aspects in the text, too, such as certain words repeating 2 or 3 times in a row. Researchers have also noted that, unlike many languages where the most common words are the shortest, like a and the Voynich Manuscript doesn't have this structure. There are theories that suggest that mostly everyone who has had possession of the manuscript could have written the manuscript as a hoax. Take Wilfrid. As a rare book dealer, he was always on the hunt for valuable items to add to his collection and make a lot of money from. Could he have fabricated the manuscript as a unique and alluring text to gain the interest of scholars, researchers, and the public? He had access to vellum, ink, and other materials needed to create this document, although he would have needed quite a lot. He had experience with historical manuscripts which may have enabled him to create a realistic, authentic book. He promoted it often as a valuable artifact, claiming it was from Roger Bacon, and hyped up its significance, which could have convinced many that it was a highly valuable and desirable item. But there is no real evidence to support this, and the radiocarbon dating on the vellum shows it was most likely created a long time ago, and also the pages had not been previously written on. They were new. So if it was a hoax, it was most likely before Wilfrid's time.
Okay, but wait, could Wilfrid have bought vellum from like 600 years ago and like preserved it and then written on it maybe?
Yeah, 100%. I don't see why he couldn't.
Yeah.
I could buy vellum right now, I bet. I'm going to check. But see, there's plenty of vellum here.
Okay.
My house is full of vellum at this moment.
I've got a ton of vellum.
How much is vellum?
Well, depends on what kind of vellum we're looking for. It looks like they sell it by the bundle at like $20.
Hey, that's not bad.
But it's probably not 600-year-old vellum.
Yeah, it's probably like new vellum. I want the old stuff.
I don't know about him, Wilfrid, like lying about it, because like the guy who's like, oh, I got it from an ancient trunk, doesn't seem the guy to be like, well, actually, this ruler, like the emperor had it and then it passed off to a Jesuit and the Jesuit moved it here and stuff like that. It was in a college for a while before making its way to the Vatican. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like he would have lied about where he got it from maybe, but it seems like a whole
he
bunch
wouldn't
of
put
different
evidence in the
effort.
book that contradicts his story.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it was Wilfrid. I think it's possible that it was a hoax, especially with something coming up. I definitely think it's possible that it was a hoax, but probably from closer to the time period where it was actually created.
Yeah, that's more plausible. I also like the part about there's no us or thes or stuff like that. Doesn't make sense to me because, like, sure, in naturally occurring languages that makes sense. We have a lot of like setups and qualifiers and stuff like that in sentence. There's a lot of ofs and thes. But if you take a code, you normally cut all that out. Like, for example, sign language, right? Sign language doesn't have of, these, by the way, stuff like that. It's just like the points you need to get across. It's me, go here, now, you do this, right? It's very to the point. And if you were going to create your own code or language, you wouldn't include all the qualifiers in with it. It'd just be the data.
So that's why there's no small words, basically, is what you're saying?
In my opinion, yeah.
So one of the biggest pitfalls of that theory, not what Isaiah was just saying, but the theory of it being a hoax, is that it's actually quite hard to create a cohesive constructed language without referring to or referencing one or several natural languages. One of the best examples of this is Tolkien's Quenya language, which was influenced by Finnish, and there's a bunch of other examples as well. I mean, it's not impossible, as Isaiah has said, like, me and him could probably create. Do you think we could actually create an entirely, original language, like a constructed language, easily?
I'm not smart enough to, but I think a group of people in theory could.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But yeah, if the theory is correct that someone created Voynichese as a constructed language, it's expected that they likely used a natural language as a base, and it's bizarre that it didn't use Latin, which was the industry standard for scientific books during the Middle Ages. This whole idea appears to be unlikely because then we'd likely have made headway into deciphering it, as some have said to have done by comparing it to Hebrew in the past. Okay, Charlie, you take the next section. This is actually like probably the theory that I believe the most in.
All right, that it was created either by a man named Edward Kelly and or previously referenced John Dee. The two shared an interest in alchemy, spiritualism, and occult in the 16th century. Edward claimed he could see angels or spirits that communicated to him in a special language called Enochian, which he would often then relay to John. John was actually an advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, and it is unknown if he was a believer in Edward's mystical claims or an accomplice to a facade. They would travel across Europe together, attempting to communicate with angels and seeking esoteric knowledge. The theory goes that they created the manuscripts as proof of Edward Kelly's angels and spirits, and perhaps the language in the manuscript is actually the Enochian language they described. In which case, the book is literally the ramblings of an insane man and his friend. The ramblings of an insane man and his friend, designed to scam the eventual buyer of the book, Emperor Rudolf II of Germany. And maybe that's why it wasn't based on any natural language.
See, that's the theory I believe in, because it did touch...
Okay, well, when I didn't know that going in. That's probably...
Yeah.
I didn't know that's even a scenario that he thought he was talking to angels.
Yeah.
I said it from the very beginning.
So John Dee was the person that sold it to Emperor Rudolf II, and one of his closest friends was a man named Edward Kelly, who believed in talking to angels with the Enochian language.
Okay, so Enoch is a character in the Bible who a lot of like esoteric beliefs and stuff like that is based around, because it said he was one of the few people in the Bible who never died. He went directly to heaven. He was pre-flood. It says he communed with the angels and with God directly, that when it came time for him to die, God simply carried him to heaven. So,
like a piggyback ride?
The way Hebrews phrases it is that Enoch was translated so that he did not see death. So Enoch has a bunch of lore and beliefs built around him, so it makes sense that this guy obsessed with like Christian spiritualism would say the language was Enochian in nature, like it's based off Enoch. Also, that gives further validity to my theory that the depictions of the 9 circles are based on Dante's Paradiso, because for one, Dante's Paradiso was the most famous extra biblical work at the time around the Bible and heaven and whatnot. And also, all those depictions of the weird shapes and fractals are all very popular in like extra biblical teachings of like what angels look like, what shapes look like, wheels within wheels, stuff like that.
Yeah, like divine things, yeah. I have seen.
Yeah, like of the impossible shapes. So what's the word of it? Divine architecture, stuff like that. Yes, so that makes a lot of sense.
Wow, yeah, I could see that, yeah. But then what about the bath women? Maybe they're angels?
They could be angels.
Angels are known to be taking baths all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true. I mean, you see naked angels in paintings and stuff. So
Well, that's the thing
possible.
too. Like most angelic depictions were either, or at least there were two different kind of angelic depictions. There's like the warrior angel, and then there was the caring administrator to man type angel. Those were almost always depicted as androgynous or explicitly feminine. So depicting angels as like naked women in groups, actually, that makes a lot of sense because a lot of the things they're doing could be described as like trumpets, or could be described as like in tangling with the affairs of man, of making things happen. Could just be depictions of angels going about their activities on earth, going up and down from heaven, so to speak.
It could also
So, yeah,
be like
that would mesh.
about a spiritual cleansing as well, maybe something along those
Yep.
lines. A lot of
certainly
different
be.
interpretations, possibly. But yeah, regardless, that's the theory that I believe the most in. But now we're going to get into the theory that Charlie believes the most in. So, Charlie?
Yeah, the aliens. So there's thousands of articles and websites dedicated to the idea that the Voynich Manuscript comes from some kind of extraterrestrial who found its home on our little rock. Most common belief is that the aliens crash landed on Earth during the Middle Ages and documented life on the planet until it was either picked up or died. People point to the fact that there are so many different astrological drawings in the manuscript that aren't connected to our understanding of the stars that this must be an alien with advanced knowledge of the universe, forgetting the fact that this dumb motherfucker just crash landed on our planet and wasn't able to leave.
That's so true, King.
That's so true. That's so true.
There are thousands of articles about it, though, and people talking about this theory as if it's the actual likely outcome of this, which,
God,
to be
that's so
fair,
dumb.
could be. Not ruling anything out. I like the idea of
Well,
an
that just
alien.
means they suck at drawing. Like if they're drawing like plants that way and stuff, that's not what they look
But it also
like.
meant that
idiot.
the alien was a little voyeur who was watching naked women bath and shit like that.
And also, like, what the heck? Like, aliens can fly around and they have like interdimensional travel, but yet they get to Earth and they draw sunflowers really stupid and don't know how things work.
like why? Oh, but maybe
Yeah.
that's why he drew it different though, because his eyes are alien and he sees it
you're
different.
right. His perception's different. Now we're talking.
Yeah, maybe that's why it's
now
in
you're
different
getting to the good
colors.
stuff.
But then why
There
does
you
he
go.
know about like our astrological signs and stuff like that, like Pisces and stuff?
Big fan of TikTok astrology.
Maybe he had like a coordinate on Earth that was helping him with this information, and then we have the rule of two. So
True. There's always a second alien.
there's always a second alien.
All right, boys, that's gonna do it for this one. I think I'm personally of the opinion that it's the Edward Kelly / John D scam, the old classic John D scam. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't think we'll ever decipher it though.
Yeah, my backup theory would be that's a cipher of some kind. Like I said, like a language that was
society.
just basically created all at once. But I didn't know the guys who sold it to the thing were like speaking to angels about forbidden prophecies and stuff. With that information, I would have to agree with you.
Yeah, scam. Oh, but it's such a like elaborate scam. Too.
Well, one scammer and one like insane person.
yeah,
One person who almost certainly had some form of schizophrenia, but at the time was just called in touch with the spirit. Holy
Yeah.
even.
Yeah. Charlie, you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. That's going to do it for this red thread. Let us know your thoughts below. Let us know where you lean on the Voynich Manuscript. Did you like it? Did you hate it as much as Charlie did? Or were you somewhere in the middle? Let us know. Other than that, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you very much for all of your support. Really does mean a lot. Yeah. Audio, iTunes, Spotify, we're all over there. Isaiah, wait. I forgot to do it at the start. Can you shout out your stuff live on the show right now?
That's so sweet of you. I actually have no idea what ticket sales are at right now. I know it's over half, but yeah. So, the Stalker film I worked on with Stephen Royalty and Evan Hancock, creators of the SCP films. We're doing a short tour for it in August and the first week of September. So if you want to come see that, meet me, meet the cast and crew, ask us questions, stuff like that about the movie. We are touring to Brooklyn, Tampa, LA, and Dallas through August. So tickets are on sale at stalkerentertainment.com. Wait, no, sorry. x1entertainment.com/stalker tour. So get in while you can, and thank you all for the support. And thank you to you two for allowing me to shill on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Of course.
No. Link will be in the description, so you go get your tickets now to that. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of Red Thread. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. There's a
Bye, everyone.
manuscript to decode. Bye.
Bye. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.